Have you ever reached the end of the day as a parent and thought, I'm beyond tired, but I can't stop, because there's still more to do? The laundry still sits unfolded, emails still unanswered, kids still need one more story before bed. And somewhere inside, your chest feels heavy, your mind foggy, like no amount of rest could ever be enough. That feeling has a name, burnout. And it's not just exhaustion, it's what happens when stress piles up and never really goes away. In this audiobook-style reflection, we'll explore Emily and Amelia Nagoski's powerful book Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. And here's the promise: by the end, you'll understand not only what burnout really is, but also how to prevent it, recover from it, and gently build resilience in your everyday life as a parent. We'll talk about the stress cycle, the symptoms of burnout, the role of culture and expectations, and, most importantly, simple, practical ways to help yourself feel whole again. So let's begin where the Nagoskis begin, with what burnout truly means. Many people think burnout is just being tired. But in truth, burnout is the state of being emotionally, physically, and mentally drained by chronic stress, the kind of stress that never gets fully processed. Parents especially know this cycle. Stressors are everywhere: a crying toddler, an unexpected bill, a demanding boss, the guilt of not being enough. But here's the secret the Nagoskis reveal: stressors are not the same as stress. Stress is the chemical and physical reaction in your body. Stressors are the things that trigger it. You can remove the stressor, like finishing that email or getting the kids to school, but if you don't complete the stress cycle, the tension lingers in your body. It builds, day after day, until you find yourself snapping at small things, feeling hopeless, or even becoming numb. Think about a gazelle on the savannah, chased by a lion. When it escapes, it shakes, breathes hard, maybe even sprints a little more, and then its body resets. The stress cycle completes. Humans, on the other hand, don't always let the cycle finish. You fight with your partner, or deal with a tantrum, or push through a long workday, but you don't give your body the signals it needs to release that built-up stress. The result? Burnout. For parents, this often shows up as emotional exhaustion, feeling like you've given every drop of yourself and still come up short. It can look like cynicism, when even the sweet moments with your kids feel like one more demand. And it can show up as a sense of reduced accomplishment, where no matter how much you do, it never feels enough. If you've ever felt these symptoms, you're not weak. You're human. And the good news is, the Nagoskis give us what burnout really is, not just stress itself, but the body stuck in stress mode. The natural question is, how do we actually get out? How do we close that stress cycle so it doesn't pile up inside us? Emily and Amelia Nagoski share a surprisingly hopeful truth: the key is not always to remove the stressors, because let's be honest, as parents, many stressors can't simply be erased. You can't stop your baby from waking at 2 a.m., you can't erase a teenager's eye rolls, and you can't magically cancel bills. But what you can do is give your body what it needs to process the stress itself. The first and most powerful way is movement. When your heart is pounding from stress, the simplest way to convince your body it has survived is to move it. Think of it like shaking off the lion. This doesn't have to mean running a marathon or squeezing in an intense workout. It could be a brisk walk while pushing a stroller, dancing in the kitchen with your kids, or even stretching while you breathe deeply. The goal isn't fitness, the goal is completion, telling your nervous system, you are safe now. Another way is through breathing. Slow, deep, intentional breathing is like medicine for the stress cycle. Imagine inhaling to the count of 4, holding gently, then exhaling for longer than you inhaled. This signals your body to calm. Parents can do this even in the middle of chaos, while waiting in the school pickup line, while nursing a baby, or even in the bathroom for 60 precious seconds of quiet. Then there's laughter. Real, belly laughter is one of the fastest ways to shift the body from fight or flight back into connection and safety. If you've ever laughed so hard with your kids over something silly that you forgot about your to-do list, you've felt this reset. The Nagoskis remind us that humor isn't a distraction from life. It's a healing force inside of it. Creativity also works. Drawing, journaling, gardening, singing, any act that lets your inner self express something beyond survival helps complete the stress cycle. This is why even 5 minutes of doodling with your child, or singing in the shower, can feel oddly refreshing. Your brain and body recognize it as relief. And perhaps the most underestimated, connection. A warm hug held for 20 seconds, a kind word from a friend, the silent comfort of your partner's hand in yours. These moments are not luxuries, they're biological needs. Humans are wired to regulate stress through relationships. Parents especially need this, because the constant giving can make you feel isolated. That cup of tea with a friend, that phone call where someone really listens, reflection for us as parents. Completing the stress cycle doesn't have to mean big, life-altering changes. It can mean tiny, intentional acts built into your day, reminding your body that the danger has passed. Maybe you can't erase the tantrum, but you can take 3 deep breaths afterward. Maybe you can't change the workload, but you can walk around the block once. The key isn't perfection, it's consistency. Each small action is a message to your body, you are safe. You are healing. Now that we've talked about the stress cycle and how to complete it, the Nagoski sisters ask us to pause and consider something deeper. Why is it that so many women, especially mothers, seem to live on the edge of burnout all the time? This is where they introduce the idea of what they call human giver syndrome. It's not an official diagnosis, it's a cultural reality. The idea is that society often expects women to be givers. To hand over their time, their energy, their attention, even their bodies, for the benefit of others. And if they dare to hold some of that for themselves, they're made to feel selfish or guilty. Think of a mom who takes 10 minutes to drink her coffee in peace while her toddler watches cartoons. How often do we hear, "You should be using that time to clean, to play, to do something productive"? Or consider the parent who dares to say no to volunteering at school because they're exhausted, and immediately feels judged. These constant expectations are what the Nagoskis describe as cultural scripts, unwritten rules that say, if you're not giving, you're failing. The problem is, when you live like this, burnout becomes inevitable. Because no one can give endlessly without replenishing. Imagine trying to pour water for your whole family from an empty jug. Sooner or later, nothing comes out. And yet so many parents, especially mothers, push through on empty, blaming themselves for not being enough instead of questioning the impossible standards. This section of the book is both validating and challenging. It names the quiet guilt so many parents feel, the guilt of resting, the guilt of asking for help, the guilt of not being superhuman. And it reminds us that this guilt is not personal failure, it's cultural conditioning. Here's where the Nagoskis offer a gentle but powerful reflection: your worth is not tied to your productivity, your appearance, or how much you sacrifice. Your worth is inherent. Full stop. When you begin to believe that, even a little, you reclaim the right to care for yourself without apology. For example, one mother they described felt guilty for leaving her kids with her partner so she could attend a yoga class. But reframing it, seeing that class not as me time, but as necessary maintenance for my brain and body, shifted everything. It wasn't indulgence. This perspective can be liberating. It was survival. Burnout isn't just about individual stress, it's about the impossible pressures society piles on. And the first step to recovery is recognizing that you don't have to meet those impossible demands. You can set boundaries. You can say no. You can remind yourself that caring for you is caring for your family. When you're running on fumes as a parent, it's easy to think the answer is to push harder, to demand more of yourself, to just get it together. But here's the truth the Nagoski sisters emphasize again and again: self-criticism doesn't prevent burnout, it accelerates it. What actually helps us heal and stay resilient is self-compassion. Self-compassion means treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer your child or your closest friend. But for many parents, that feels foreign. We often carry an inner voice that says, "You're not doing enough. You should be more patient. You should be more organized. You should be stronger." That voice doesn't inspire us, it drains us. It's like carrying a bully in your head. Now imagine instead the voice of a loving friend. After a long day, when the house is a mess and your patience is gone, that friend wouldn't say, "You're failing." They'd say, "Of course you're tired. You've been carrying so much. You deserve rest." That's what self-compassion sounds like. And here's the science: people who practice self-compassion are more motivated, more resilient, and more likely to bounce back from stress. Take the example of a parent who loses their temper and yells at their child. The self-critical response might be, "I'm a terrible parent. I've ruined everything." That spiral of shame only adds more stress. But a self-compassionate response sounds like, "I wish I hadn't yelled, but I'm human. I was overwhelmed. I can apologize, repair, and do better next time." Notice how that doesn't excuse the behavior, but it does prevent the shame spiral that fuels burnout. The Nagoskis explain that self-compassion has 3 parts. First, mindfulness, noticing your own feelings without exaggerating or denying them. Second, common humanity, remembering you're not alone, that every parent struggles. And third, kindness, speaking to yourself with warmth instead of cruelty. Together, these shift your inner world from a battlefield to a safe space. One mother shared that she began practicing this by placing her hand on her heart and saying quietly, "This is hard, and I'm doing my best." It seemed small, but that little act calmed her nervous system, interrupted the cycle of shame, and gave her just enough strength to keep going. The reflection for us as parents is this: self-compassion isn't selfish. It's fuel. It gives you the emotional energy to keep showing up for your family without burning yourself down to ashes. And just like empathy teaches children resilience, self-compassion teaches us to weather the storms of parenting without often sacrifice first, it's rest. There's always something else to do, someone else to take care of, a never-ending to-do list whispering that rest is indulgent. But Emily and Amelia Nagoski make it clear, rest is not a prize you earn after finishing everything. Rest is a requirement, built into the very way your body and brain function. They remind us that just like our phones need recharging, our brains and bodies are designed to work in cycles of exertion and recovery. Ignore the recovery, and the system starts to glitch, your patience shortens, your memory fades, your emotions fray. Parents often live in this glitch mode without even realizing it, chalking it up to normal tiredness, when really, it's the absence of true rest. And rest doesn't only mean sleep, though sleep is crucial. The Nagoskis describe 7 kinds of rest: physical, mental, emotional, social, creative, spiritual, and sensory. Think of the mother who collapses into bed but can't turn her brain off, replaying worries over and over. She's physically lying down, but her mind isn't resting. Or the father who spends all day giving emotionally to his kids and comes home too drained to connect with his partner. He needs emotional rest, not just physical. Practical examples make this clear. Mental rest might mean stepping away from constant decision-making, even something as small as letting your partner decide what's for dinner. Emotional rest could be crying with a trusted friend instead of bottling everything up. Sensory rest might be turning off screens and sitting in a quiet, dimly lit room for 10 minutes. These tiny resets are what help your nervous system recover. Parents often resist this because they think, "I don't have time." But here's the paradox: the less time you think you have for rest, the more you need it. A mom once shared that she started giving herself 5 minutes alone in the car before walking into the house after work. Just 5 minutes of silence, deep breathing, maybe a favorite song. That pause transformed her evenings. She was calmer, more patient, and more able to enjoy her kids instead of snapping. The Nagoskis emphasize that rest is not passive. It's an active choice to honor your body's rhythm. It's a way of saying, "I'm not a machine, I'm a human being." When parents embrace this, they begin to see rest not as wasted time, but as the secret ingredient that makes everything else sustainable. So here's the reflection: what if we stopped seeing rest as selfish and started seeing it as part of good parenting? What if closing your eyes for a moment, or stepping outside to breathe, wasn't stealing time from your kids but giving them a calmer, healthier version of you? That's what true rest does. It refuels you so you can love more fully. Emily and Amelia Nagoski explain, live something they call the monitor. Think of it as the inner gauge that constantly tracks whether life is unfolding the way you expected. It compares where you are with where you thought you'd be, and when the gap feels too big, it floods you with frustration, anger, or despair. Parents know this feeling well. Maybe you imagined bedtime would look like sweet cuddles and story time, but instead it's tears, spilled water, and cries for the fifth bathroom trip. Your monitor throws up red flags. This isn't how it's supposed to be. Or maybe you expected to have a tidy house, a balanced job, and time for self-care, but the reality is laundry piles, endless deadlines, and exhaustion. That constant clash between expectation and reality is what makes the monitor such a powerful driver of stress. Here's the tricky part: the monitor doesn't just want things to match your expectations, it wants completion. It wants to see the to-do list finished, the goal reached, the project neatly tied up. But parenting rarely offers that kind of finish line. There's always another meal to cook, another mess to clean, another stage of development to adapt to. If you're waiting for the moment of done, the monitor will keep you locked in frustration forever. So how do we work with this inner gauge? The Nagoskis suggest two simple but powerful strategies. First, adjust your expectations with compassion. Instead of fighting reality, meet it. If the monitor insists bedtime should be smooth, gently remind yourself, bedtime is bumpy. That doesn't mean I'm failing, it means I'm parenting a real child, not an ideal one. By softening the expectation, you quiet the monitor's alarm. Second, celebrate progress instead of only completion. The monitor gets relief when it sees movement, even small steps. Did you fold half the laundry? That's progress. Did your child brush their teeth after the third reminder instead of the fifth? That's progress. By naming and celebrating these micro-wins, you teach the monitor to feel satisfied along the way, rather than holding out for an impossible finish line. One parent shared how she began ending her day by writing down 3 things she did accomplish, even if they were tiny, like, played peekaboo for 5 minutes, or, sent one important email. At first it felt silly, but soon her monitor began quieting down. Her brain started to register that yes, she was making progress. And that shift lowered her stress more than she expected. The reflection here is this: burnout often comes from battles with our own expectations as much as from external stress. When we stop fighting the endless loop of not enough, and instead notice what is happening, we give our brains a sense of completion. And sometimes, that's enough to let us like a golden thread through burnout. It's this: we are not meant to do life alone. The Nagoski sisters remind us that connection is not a luxury, it's a biological necessity. Our nervous systems are designed to regulate in the presence of safe, supportive relationships. Without that, stress builds and lingers. With it, stress melts and transforms. Think of how it feels when you've had the hardest day with your kids: meltdowns, arguments, endless mess, and then you talk to a friend who simply nods and says, "Me too. I get it." Nothing in your circumstances has changed, but suddenly, you feel lighter. That's not just emotional comfort, it's your body completing the stress cycle through connection. The Nagoskis point to research showing that even short moments of genuine human connection, a 20-second hug, shared laughter, or an honest conversation, can lower cortisol, release oxytocin, and signal safety to the brain. This is why friendships, community, and even simple neighborly kindness are protective factors against burnout. For parents, the challenge is that isolation often creeps in. You may feel like you have to carry it all, or that asking for help is weakness. But the truth is, we do it together, is more sustainable than, I must do it all. The sisters encourage us to lean into community, whether that's a trusted friend, a parenting group, family, or even online support networks. One mom shared that she began swapping childcare with a neighbor once a week. For 2 hours, she watched the neighbor's kids, and the next week, the neighbor watched hers. It wasn't a big, dramatic solution, but it gave each parent a taste of freedom and rest. The act itself was helpful, but so was the unspoken message: we're in this together. And connection isn't just external. It also shows up inside the family. Sharing small rituals, like a silly bedtime song, a shared meal, or a weekend walk, creates a web of safety and joy that nourishes both parents and kids. These micro moments of bonding remind you that you're not just surviving stress, you're building love. The reflection here is simple but profound: we burn out faster in isolation, and we heal faster in connection. Sometimes the most powerful stress management technique is not deep breathing or journaling, it's letting someone else see you, hear you, and hold reflections in Emily and Amelia Nagoski's Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. One truth shines above all the rest: life will always have stress, but burnout doesn't have to be the end of the story. The real difference lies in how we respond to that stress, whether we allow it to accumulate unchecked, or whether we learn to complete the cycle, honor our needs, and reach for connection. The sisters remind us that thriving is not about having a perfect balance, or finally finding a life where everything goes smoothly. Thriving is about building rhythms and habits that let you bounce back, even when things are messy. It's about remembering that your body isn't the enemy, it's trying to keep you alive. And when you listen to it, when you move, breathe, laugh, rest, and connect, you give it the tools to finish the work it started. For parents, this message is especially powerful. Because the truth is, parenting is never finished. There will always be another need, another stage, another demand. If you wait until life calms down to care for yourself, you may be waiting forever. But if you begin now, in the small cracks of daily life, you can create a cycle of healing even while the chaos continues. Remember the practical tools: movement doesn't have to be a gym session, it can be dancing with your kids. Rest doesn't have to be a week-long vacation, it can be 5 quiet minutes in the car before you walk inside. Connection doesn't require a huge support system, it can be one honest text to a friend. Self-compassion doesn't need to erase mistakes, it only asks you to speak to yourself with the same gentleness you give your child. And perhaps the most comforting reflection: you don't have to do this alone. None of us do. Burnout thrives in silence and isolation, but it weakens when we share, when we ask for help, when we let others walk with us. So if you're listening to this and feeling the weight of exhaustion, let this be your reminder: you are not broken. You are human. And the fact that you're here, learning, listening, seeking a better way, is proof of your resilience already. With a vision of hope, that we can move from survival mode into a life where joy, connection, and meaning are not afterthoughts but part of the fabric of daily living. And as parents, that hope matters not just for us, but for our children, who are watching and learning from the way we care for ourselves. So take a deep breath, right now. Let it out slowly. Feel your shoulders soften. That small act is a completion of the stress cycle. That small act is a gift to yourself. And if this reflection has been meaningful to you, I invite you to stay connected. Subscribe to this channel for more audiobook-style parenting book summaries, gentle wisdom, and science-based insights to help you not just survive parenthood, but thrive in it. Together, we can keep learning, keep growing, and keep finding joy, even in the middle of it all.